You are sitting in a generic deli on 14th Street in Washington, D.C., holding a Subway sandwich filled with lukewarm turkey and wilted lettuce. It is 2:14 p.m., and the rain outside makes the asphalt of Pennsylvania Avenue look slick and greasy. As a senior auditor for the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, you have just finished your 16th routine inspection of the Department of Defense's non-disclosed accounts. Your life is defined by spreadsheets, the chronic back pain that comes from a sedentary career, and a paycheck that hits your bank account every 2 years with mind-numbing punctuality.
You believe you are a mere speck in this vast bureaucratic machine, a piece of grit that isn't even significant enough to be lubricated.
Then your phone screen lights up. It isn't your personal phone, nor the government-issued BlackBerry. It is a featureless matte gray mobile device you found on a subway station bench 10 minutes ago. The screen displays a single line of text: Pentagon Parking Lot 3, Slot 42. A generator failure will occur in 30 seconds. You have 5 minutes to enter the C-block elevator. You don't have time to think. Your intuition, the professional instinct honed by sniffing out corruption and fraud in 1,000 budget reports, tells you that if you don't leave now, the report you're supposed to submit this afternoon regarding the Black Site project, fund migration will become either your ticket to a new life or your death warrant. You toss the sandwich and burst out of the deli into the rain. The moment you step onto the sidewalk, a transformer across the street explodes with a deafening crack, showering sparks. The traffic lights go dark instantly. Chaos spreads in seconds, and you have already vanished around the corner toward the metro station. When you stand inside that cold, steel elevator as instructed, you realize this isn't a public area of the Pentagon. The elevator does not go up, it descends. The depth defies your understanding of the building's blueprints. When the doors slide open, a woman in a charcoal suit, devoid of wrinkles or identification, stands waiting. Her eyes are as precise as laser sights.
Auditor, there is an error in your report. That $34 billion earmarked for weather satellite maintenance is not going to Boeing or Lockheed Martin,
She says, her voice flat and devoid of inflection. If you submit that flawed report to your superiors, the Tokyo Stock Exchange will collapse tomorrow because of an unexplainable liquidity gap in the Federal Reserve. The yen will devalue by 20%, triggering a chain reaction across the entire Pacific Rim. Would you sacrifice the livelihoods of 300 million people for the sake of fiscal transparency? Your throat tightens. This is the first wave of moral pressure, the gamble between truth and stability. You know she's right. In your auditing model, those funds represent a bottomless black hole. But if you force it open, you aren't just breaking a budget. You're shattering the fragile credit system that supports modern civilization.
What do I have to do?
You hear your own voice tremble.
tear up your report. From now on, you no longer audit the flow of money. You decide it. The president thinks he runs the country.
She says, her voice flat and devoid of inflection. If no one tells them whether there's enough budget to fuel a carrier group tomorrow morning, or if the social media algorithms need to push a manufactured crisis to distract the voters, this country falls apart in 48 hours. She hands you a tablet. It displays real-time fluctuations in global crude oil prices, heat maps of surveillance from major social platforms, and a series of draft executive orders you've never seen in the news.
Welcome to the preeminent establishment.
You realize you are no longer the accountant worried about a few cents of discrepancy. You have entered a world of shadows where a decision is destiny and silence is power. 6 months later, your identity has been erased from the physical world. In official records, you died of complications from overwork, but in reality, you have moved into an underground command center deep in the Virginia woods. Here, there are no parties, no elections, only cold, hard logic. Your first truly significant decision involves a peripheral conflict in Eastern Europe. On a public level, the State Department is engaged in diplomatic mediation, but on your screen, the reality is different. If you allow the energy pipelines there to be severed, Western Europe's winter will arrive early. This would lead to the collapse of the pro-NATO coalition governments, replaced by far-right pro-Russian politicians. Your task is not to stop the war, but to calibrate the cost of the conflict. You review the resource scale. You can tap into hidden liquidity within the Federal Reserve System to buy out the region's natural gas supply on the spot market through a series of shell companies. Simultaneously, you must sign an administrative directive allowing intelligence agencies to launch a character assassination campaign against the country's opposition leader. The decision logic is straightforward. Sacrifice the electricity supply of a border city of 300,000 people in exchange for 3 years of strategic stability for an entire continent. You look at the confirmation button under your finger. If you press it, the elderly in that city will die in the harsh cold, and infants will be left without the protection of incubators. If you don't, a full-scale war breaking out in 3 months will claim millions of lives. You press the button. In that moment, you understand the first law of power. Power is not about doing what is right, it is about choosing the catastrophe that is slightly less terrible. The pressure from such decisions is persistent, a low-frequency vibration in your bones. You begin to filter this pressure through quantitative metrics. You stop looking at the names of victims. You only look at systemic stress levels and probability deviations. You discover that when the scale of a decision reaches a certain point, it becomes pure mathematics. 3 years pass. You are now responsible for the Election Interference and Internal Stabilization module. The current president is a vainglorious performer whose every tweet can cause the dollar index to drop 0.5 percentage points. As a shadow bureaucrat, your job is to build a buffer zone, completely isolating the actual decision-making process of the nation from the puppet sitting in the Oval Office. The current crisis involves a new trade agreement. If signed, manufacturing in the Midwest will utterly collapse, driving voters in 4 key swing states into a frenzy. If rejected, our military bases in Asia will lose the logistical support of their host nations. You sit in your office late at night, staring at economic models for those 4 states. You don't try to fix the trade deal. That's too slow. Your strategy is to manufacture a higher dimensional threat. You order the activation of an operation codenamed Shadow Veil. By manipulating the top-level audits of 3 major news conglomerates, who all have undeniable tax issues held in your hand, you guide the media to manufacture a collective panic regarding unidentified aerial phenomena, or a biolab leak within 48 hours. This panic successfully diverts public attention from the trade deal. While people are panic-buying masks and canned goods, the trade agreement is signed quietly at 3 a.m. The consequences are long-term. Manufacturing does collapse, and those 4 states will sink into drug abuse and poverty over the next decade. But you funnel a sum of black money through secret channels for job retraining programs, which actually flows to local union leaders to ensure they remain on the side of stability during the next vote. This is your daily logic. You no longer consider what is good for the people. You only consider what keeps this massive 300 million passenger freighter from capsizing. You have become a cold-blooded manipulator. One day, you must handle a threat involving your own past. A former colleague, the one you used to eat turkey sandwiches with at OMB, has found some traces of abnormal fund migrations. He is honest, perhaps even stubborn, and he is preparing to testify before a House committee. You watch his anxious face on a surveillance feed. He has a wife and 2 children. He just wants to be a man of integrity. Your first thought is to liquidate him. It's the simplest decision. But you immediately reject it, because violence is the crudest expression of a bureaucracy. Violence leaves traces, traces trigger investigations, and investigations generate new uncertainties. You opt for strategic manipulation. You order the retrieval of every medical and financial record he has generated over the last 10 years. You discover that 5 years ago, He sent a sum of money to an illegal overseas account to pay for his niece's rare disease treatment. You don't threaten him directly. You simply arrange for him to receive a routine audit notice from the IRS in his mailbox after work. At the bottom of the letter, you include a photo of his niece playing in a park. He chooses to remain silent. At that moment, you feel not victory, but a profound sadness. You realize the true cost of this identity. You must destroy every virtue you once identified with in order to protect the social foundations that produce those virtues. You are a ranger protecting a forest, but your daily work consists of selectively chopping down the tallest, healthiest trees. As time goes on, the classification levels you access reach the summit. You are now involved in the ultimate gambit regarding national continuity. You face a world that is increasingly difficult to control. Artificial intelligence, decentralized financial systems, and irreversible climate change are all challenging the bureaucratic order established since World War II. Your most recent decision involves the currency digitalization process. If it becomes fully decentralized, the government will lose its ability to monitor capital flows and conduct macro adjustments, meaning the levers in your hand will fail. If you force a government-controlled digital currency, it will trigger an unprecedented civil liberties crisis. You discuss this on a private, encrypted channel deep in the night with 3 other people at your level. They are scattered across the CIA's Strategic Directorate, a secret board of the Federal Reserve, and the core circles of major defense contractors. You are not politicians. You are the resilience nodes of the state.
We need a controlled collapse, a chain reaction of defaults in small banks, sufficient to make the public accept total central bank oversight out of fear.
Your voice echoing in the empty basement.
The risk is the scope of the contagion. If you miscalculate by 0.1%, it's a repeat of 1929.
The other party responds.
If we don't do it, it's a total collapse by 2030.
You insist. Your decision logic is based on a brutal mathematics. You calculate that by causing 30,000 middle-class families to lose their retirement savings, you can secure absolute government control over illegal capital flows for the next 30 years. This is a high-stakes gamble. If the decision fails, your name won't appear in history books, but you will spend the rest of your life in deep cover incarceration, or be more efficiently erased by the system itself. The operation begins. You watch the numbers jump on the screen. You manipulate the algorithms, withdrawing liquidity support at the critical moment. That bank declares bankruptcy at exactly 4 p.m. on a Friday. Panic arrives as scheduled. You manipulate the government's reaction speed from behind the scenes, ensuring it intervenes at the exact threshold where people feel just enough despair, but before riots break out. It is an incredibly precise experiment. You sit in your command chair, having not slept for 48 hours. You observe the social reaction through various channels. You see people weeping in front of banks. You see families breaking apart. Your sense of morality tries to counterattack at that moment, but you quickly suppress it with a set of data. If no action is taken, inflation will swallow everyone's assets within 5 years, not just these 30,000. When you finally see the president sign that Emergency Economic Act, which you drafted and which effectively strips away financial anonymity, on Monday morning, you feel a hollow sense of satisfaction. You have saved the system once again. However, this success comes with deeper perils. You find yourself at the center of a shrinking circle. Every decision you take to maintain stability is actually weakening the foundational vitality of the system. The more panic you manufacture, the less people trust the establishment. The less they trust the establishment, the more panic you need to manufacture to maintain control. You are a doctor constantly increasing the dosage of antibiotics to suppress a patient's inflammation, until the patient's immune system completely collapses. The risks have now escalated beyond your complete control. A rising tech mogul is attempting to establish a global governance system through his satellite network that does not rely on land-based bureaucracies. He is challenging your authority. You cannot simply seize his company. He has hundreds of millions of supporters globally, and his technological tentacles reach into every ordinary person's phone. You begin to design a 10-year deconstruction plan. You need to manipulate antitrust legislation, manufacture scandals regarding his private life, and, most critically, artificially engineer a technical disaster in the next space launch to shatter public confidence in him. The cost of the decision is growing exponentially. This time, if you fail, not only will your identity be exposed, but the legitimacy of the entire permanent establishment will crumble. Now, you are sitting in that windowless office, staring at the clock on the wall. You are 56 years old, but your soul feels as old as sedimentary rock. You no longer remember what that auditor eating a turkey sandwich in the deli looked like. You don't even remember your own name. Here, you are just a serial number, a decision node. On your desk lies a new briefing, an early warning report regarding a new pathogen, and the movements of nuclear submarines from several core geopolitical rivals. The world outside is waking up. Hundreds of thousands of people are commuting to their offices, complaining about a 10-cent hike in gas prices, or getting angry at the shouting matches on the evening news. They have no idea that this anger, these complaints, and every minute fluctuation in their lives are the curves you drew on a screen last night. You pick up the phone. This is your daily life as a shadow bureaucrat.
Initiate option Bravo,
You say into the void. Your tone is calm as if you were ordering afternoon tea.
Tell the Treasury that we need to release a National Unity Economic Compensation Plan following the upcoming accident. Yes, the funds still come from the black site budget. Don't ask me about the consequences. The consequence is ensuring that next week this country still functions.
You hang up, feeling a pang in your chest. The pressure hasn't lessened. It has become a part of your anatomy. You look around this cold office, knowing that this game never ends.
There is no final victory, only constant delay.
You are a nameless captain in the hold of a sinking ship, one you will never allow to go down, frantically patching every hole. Every successful patch makes you more exhausted and takes you further away from the flesh and blood person you once were. The rain outside seems to have stopped. You watch the traffic flow of Washington, D.C. on the surveillance monitors. They look like a colony of ants following a fixed pattern. You control them, but you are also the most lonely and irreplaceable prisoner in this nest. Risk is redefined every second. Pressure layers and accumulates in every briefing. You take a deep breath and click on the next red file regarding strategic resource shortage projections. Your life is an endless act of firefighting, and your current task is to start another fire to prevent the blaze from reaching the floor you stand on. The challenge is right in front of you. It has never ended, and it never will. You stare at the screen, ready once again to make that cold decision that will make countless people weep, but will allow civilization to continue its precarious existence.